story of 8 souls: Lena, Marcus, Bria, Jake, Sophie, Ryan, Mia, and Daniel, who escaped their fates only to realize that death doesn't forgive, and it most certainly doesn't forget. The Unseen Hand, Episode 1: The Premonition. The lake is a mirror under the late afternoon sun. Its surface is so still that it looks like glass. I step onto the ferry. The wooden planks start creaking under my sneakers. The air smells of diesel and damp wood, mixed with the faint saltiness of the water. I'm Lena, and I've been looking forward to this trip for weeks. The annual Island Festival, a rare escape from the monotony of my life. I find a spot by the railing where the breeze carries the scent of pine from the distant shore. Then the ferry's engine rumbles to life, a deep, steady growl that vibrates through the deck. Around me, the others settle in. Marcus, the man in the tailored suit, flips through a newspaper. He's tapping impatiently with his polished shoes. Bria, the backpacker, adjusts the strap of her camera, and her dark eyes are scanning the horizon for the perfect shot. Jake, the dock worker, leans against the railing, his calloused hands gripping the wood, as if he's already bracing for a storm. Sophie, the quiet girl, sits cross-legged on a bench, with her nose buried in a book. Ryan, the college student, bobs his head to music only he can hear. His headphones, though, are leaking some faint bass line. Mia kneels beside her son, Daniel, pointing at the seagulls circling overhead. Their tired couple, their names still unknown to me, hold hands as they watch the water. I close my eyes for a moment, letting the sun warm my face. The ferry begins to pull away from the dock. The gap between the boat and the shore is widening with every passing second. Then the world starts to twist. A sound like thunder cracks through the air, but there are no clouds, no lightning, just a sudden ear-splitting snap. The ferry lurches violently to the left, stomach lurches with it. People scream, but the sound is muffled as I'm hearing it through water. I look down and see the lake rushing in through a jagged hole in the hull. The water dark and hungry, it rises fast, ankle deep, then knee deep, then waist high. The ferry is sinking and the panic is palpable. Marcus drops his newspaper. His face begins to be pale. Priya fumbles with the camera. Her hands were shaking. Jake shouts something, but his voice is lost in the chaos. Sophie's book floats away. The pages are already swelling with water. Ryan yanks off his headphones. His eyes are wide. Mia scoops Daniel into her arms, and her mouth is moving in silent screams. The retired couple cling to each other with their faces twisted in terror. I try to run, but my legs won't move. The water is at my chest now, cold and suffocating. I take a deep breath, but it's not the air that I inhale. It's water. My lungs burn. My vision blurs. The last thing I see is the sky, darkening as the ferry drags me under. I gasp. My eyes fly open. The ferry is still upright. The lake is still calm. The sun is still warm on my face. My hands, though, are clenched around the railing. My knuckles are bone white. My heart is hammering around against my ribs, so hard it feels like it might crack them. The vision was so real. Every sound, every smell, every second of sheer, paralyzing terror. I look around. Marcus is still reading his newspaper, oblivious. Priya is snapping photos of the shoreline. Jake is staring at the water. His face expression was unreadable. Sophie flips a page in her book. Ryan taps his foot to the rhythm of his music. Mia lifts Daniel onto her hip, pointing at a seagull. The retired couple, though, is murmuring to each other, their voices soft. No one notices my panic. No one feels the dread coiling in my stomach. But I know what's about to come. I push away from the railing and The vision replays in my head. The crack, the tilt, the water. It's gonna happen, and soon I have to get off this ferry. I rush towards the captain's cabin, but the door is locked. I pound on it with my fist, stinking. With every strike, no answer. I press my ear to the wood. But all I hear is the hum of the engine. My breath comes in short, sharp gasps. The vision was a warning. I have to make them listen. I turn back to the deck. My eyes were scanning the group. Priya notices me first. She tilts her head. Her brows are furrowing as she takes in my wild expression. I don't say a word. I just point to the shore, then to the ferry, then to my watch. She frowns, but follows my gaze. The others begin to notice my urgency. Mia pulls Daniel closer. Her eyes were darting between me and the water. Jake pushes himself off the railing. With his body tense, as if he, too, senses the danger. Then the ferry shudders. A deep metallic groan echoes through the hull, like the sound of a beast waking from a long sleep. The boat tilts slightly, just enough to send a ripple of unease through the passengers. The captain's voice crackles over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing a minor technical issues. Please remain calm. But his tone is strained, and I catch the flicker of fear in his eyes as he rushes past us towards the engine room. I don't wait for announcement. I grab Priya's arm and I drag her towards the emergency rafts. She resists at first, but the look in my eyes must convince her. The others follow, with their movements slow, as if they're caught between disbelief and instinct. We reach the rafts just as the ferry lurches again, this time violently. The hole in the hole is real. The water pours in, dark and relentless. This boat is going down. We scramble into the rafts. Our hands were slipping under wet ropes. The ferry groans one last time, a sound like a dying animal, before it slips beneath the surface of the lake. The water closes safety of the shore, we watch in stunned silence. The news will later call it tragic accident, a mechanical failure, no survivors. But we know the truth as we stand on the dock, dripping and shivering. I look at the others. Marcus clutches his briefcase like it's the only thing keeping him upright. Maya holds Daniel so tightly he squirms in her arms. Jake stares at the water with his jaw clenched. Priya's camera hangs forgotten around her neck. Sophie's book is gone, lost to the lake. Ryan's headphones dangle from one ear. The music is long since cut off. The retired couple stands close, with their hands still intertwined. We don't speak. We don't have to. We all felt it. The wrongness of it. The way the ferry was supposed to be our end. The sun dips below the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows across the dock. The water is still, too still. The air is thick with something unspoken, something heavy pressing down. Then I see it, a ripple in the lake, far from where the ferry sank. A single, slow circle spreads across the surface, as if something beneath the water is watching us, waiting. And I realize, with a cold, sinking feeling, that this is not over. It is only just begun. This is the end of episode 1. The Unseen Hand. Episode 2. The First Sign. The diner is a relic from the 1970s. Its red vinyl boots. They are cracked with age. The air is thick with the scent of grease and coffee. I slide into a corner seat. My fingers started tracing the chipped edge of the table. The others are scattered around me. Marcus, Priya, Jake, Sophie, Ryan, Mia, and Daniel. We haven't spoken since the ferry. There's nothing to say. The weight of what happened pressed down on us like a physical force. I was watching them from a corner of my eye. Marcus stares blankly at the menu. His usual confidence was replaced by something hollow. Priya focus on a fairy that no longer exists. Jake sits with his arms closed. His gaze was fixed on the window, as if expecting the lake to rise up and drag us under. Sophie flips the pages of a new book, but her eyes don't move. Ryan taps his fingers against the table, a nervous rhythm that was betraying his calm exterior. Mia was holding Daniel close. Her chin was resting on the top of his head, but her grip was unrelenting. The retired couple was sitting in silence, their hands still clasped together, as if they are afraid to let go. The waitress, a tired-looking woman with name tag that reads Diane, drops off plates of food we didn't order. The smell of fries and burgers was filling the air, but my stomach was twisting at the thought of eating. I pushed my plate away, untouched. The vision hits without warning. One moment I'm staring at the ketchup bottle on the table. In the next moment, the world tilts. The diner starts fading, replaced by some suffocating darkness from the ferry. But this time, it's different. This time I'm not underwater. I'm here in this diner, but something is wrong. The air is thick, heavy. Marcus is choking. His face became red, and his hands were clawing at his throat. His eyes were bulging, desperate, terrified. He's gasping, but no sound comes out. The others are frozen. Their faces were twisted in horror as they watch him. I try to move, but my body will not respond. I'm trapped, forced to watch as Marcus's struggles grow weaker. His body slumped in his seat, his face turned in a natural shade of blue. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the vision is gone. I am back at the diner. Marcus is fine, laughing at something Ryan said. The others are still eating, still breathing, still alive, but I cannot shake the image of his face, his dying face, from my mind. I look down at my plate. The fries are cold now, congealed in grease. My hands shake as I reach for my glass of water. glance at Marcus. He's cutting into his burger, completely unaware. The waitress refills his coffee and he nods in thanks. His movements were easy, unhurried. Then my stomach clenched. The vision was so real, too real. I look around the diner, searching for anything that could save him. My eyes land on the condiment caddy in the center of the table. The peanut butter packet is half squeezed. Its contents were oozing on the plastic tray. My blood runs cold. Peanuts. I remember Marcus mentioning his allergy on the ferry. A severe reaction. An EpiPen was in his briefcase. My mind started racing. If he eats something with peanuts, if he has a reaction, I reach across the table and snatch that peanut butter packet. My fingers tremble as I crumple it in my fist, hiding it in my napkin. I can't take the risk. I want, but it's not enough. The vision lingers, taunting me. What if it's in the peanut butter? What if it's something else? What if the death has already decided and there's nothing I can do to stop it? The minutes drag on. Every clink of the fork, every sip of coffee, every breath feels like a countdown. I watch Marcus like a hawk. My body is tense, ready to spring into action as the first sign of trouble. He finishes his burger and wipes his mouth with a napkin. He looks fine, too fine. Then he reaches for his coffee. His hands hovers over the cup. He hesitates, as if sensing something is off. My heart started pounding. No, no, no. I want to scream, to knock the cup out of his hand, but I'm frozen. The vision replays in my head. Marcus is joking. His face is red and his body slumping. I cannot let it happen, but I don't move. I don't dare to move. Marcus lifts the cup to his lips. Then he takes a sip, then another. Nothing happens. He sets the cup down and leans back in his seat, rubbing his stomach. A small, satisfied smile plays on his lips. I exhale. My shoulders were sagging with relief. Maybe the vision was wrong. Maybe death changed its mind. flies to his throat. His eyes widen. He gasps a harsh, ragged sound. His face blushes red, then purple. He started clawing at his neck, and his body started convulsing. The others finally notice. Priya drops her camera. Jake knocks over his chair as he stands. Sophie's book falls on the floor. Ryan's headphones clatter on the table. Mia pulls Daniel against her, shielding his eyes. But I already know. I knew. I lunge across the table. My hand was straight diving into Marcus's briefcase. My fingers have found the EpiPen. I yank it out and press it into his thigh. The needle sinks in with a click. Marcus's body jerks, his back arching as the epinephrine courses through his veins. His breathing evens out. His color returned to normal. His hands drop to his sides, limping with exhaustion. The diner is silent. The only sound is the ragged breathing of the 8 of us, the survivors. The waitress stands in the doorway, her hand over her mouth, and her eyes wide with shock. I sink back into my seat. The EpiPen was still clutched in my hands. My body trembles. The adrenaline was draining me out like water from a leaky faucet. Marcus is alive. For now. But the message is clear. Death doesn't forget. And it always collects. This is the end of episode 2. The Unseen Hand. Episode 3. The Chain Reaction. The diner incident had left us all raw. Our nerves were fraying like the edges of an old photograph. We didn't speak about what happened. We didn't have to. The weight of it hung in the air. It was thick and suffocating. Marcus was avoiding my gaze. His fingers were tracing the red mark on his thigh where the EpiPen had pierced his skin. The others moved like ghosts. Their eyes were hollow, and their steps were heavy. We were connected now, bound by something darker. Something darker than survival. We left the diner in a daze. The late afternoon sun was casting long shadows across the pavement. The air was cooler now. The breeze was carrying the scent of rain. We wandered aimlessly, drawn together by an pull until we found ourselves at the subway station. The entrance yawned before us like the mouth of a beast. Its stairs were descending into darkness. I hesitated at the top of the stairs. My stomach was twisting. The others didn't notice. They were already moving downwards. Their footsteps were echoing against the tiled walls. I took a deep breath and followed. My fingers were brushing the cold metal railing. The subway platform was nearly empty. The fluorescent lights were buzzing overhead like a swarm of angry insects. The smell of damp concrete and stale air. A train rumbled in the distance. Its headlights were cutting through the tunnel like a knife. I leaned against the pillar. My eyes were scanning the platform. The others stood in a loose cluster. Their faces were pale under the harsh light. Priya was the first to notice something was wrong. She stiffened. Her eyes locked onto the tracks. I followed her gaze. A loose wire was dangling from the ceiling. Its end was sparkling ominously. The train was approaching. Its brakes screeched as if it slowed to a stop. The wire started swaying as if it was taunting us. Then the vision hit me like a punch to the gut. The platform dissolved around me, replaced by chaos. The train derailed. Its cars were twisting like broken toys. Metal screamed against metal. People ran. Their faces were twisted in terror. And then I saw her, Priya, crushed beneath the weight of a fallen support beam. Her camera shattered beside her. The image was so vivid, so real, that I could almost feel the heat of the sparks on my skin. I gasped. My knees were buckled. The vision faded, but the fear remained, clawing at my throat. The train pulled into the station with a screech. Its doors started opening with hissing. The others began to board. Their movements were sluggish, as if they were wading through water. I had to stop them. But how? How could I explain the vision without sounding like a mad woman? I lunged forward. My hand grabbed Priya's arm. She turned, and her eyes were wide with surprise. I didn't say a word. I just shook my head and tightened my grip. She frowned, but didn't pull away. others watched us. Their face expressions were a mix of confusion and concern. The train conductor blew his whistle, a sharp, impatient sound. The doors beeped, signaling their impending closure. I looked at Priya, then at the wire, then back at her. My heart started pounding. Please, I willed her. Please understand. She hesitated, then stepped back from the train. The doors slid shut, sealing the other passengers inside. The train then lurched forward. Its wheels were screeching against the tracks. We watched as it disappeared into the tunnel. The red taillights were fading into the darkness. The platform was silent. The wire was still dangling. Its sparking end was now still. I exhaled. My body was trembling with relief. We were safe. For now. But but the vision lingered, a dark cloud over my thoughts. Death had shown me Priya's fate, and if I didn't do something, it would come true. We left the subway stations. Our steps were fast as we emerged into the fading light. The streets were busier now, filled with the hum of traffic and the murmur of voices. We stuck close together. Our shoulders were brushing as we walked. The others seemed to sense my urgency. Their eyes were darting around, as if expecting death to materialize from the shadows. Priya walked beside me. Her camera was clutched tightly in her hands. She glanced at me. Her expression was unreadable. I could feel the questions in her gaze, but she didn't voice them. She didn't have to. We both knew. We turned the corner, then the street opened up before us. A construction site loomed on the right. Its skeletal framework was reaching towards the sky. A crane swung lazily in the breeze. Its hook was glinting in the sunlight. My stomach clenched. The vision returned. It was sharper this time. Priya was there, standing in the middle of the street. The crane's hook swung toward her. A dark shadow was against the bright sky. It struck her with a sickening thud. Her body crumpled to the ground. The camera flew from her hands. Its lens shattered on the pavement. I stopped walking. My breath was catching in my throat. The others turned to look at me. Their expressions were a mix of concern She understood. A gust of wind swept through the street, carrying the scent of rain. The crane creaked ominously. Its hook was swaying like a pendulum. Priya took a step back. Her eyes were locked on the swaying metal. The others noticed now. Their gazes were following hers. Jake's jaw clenched. Sophie's hands were trembling. Ryan's fingers were twitching at his sides. Mia pulled Daniel closer. Her eyes were darting between the crane and Priya. Then the unthinkable happened. The crane's cable snapped with a sound like a gunshot. The hook plummeted, a dark blur against the sky. It struck the pavement with a deafening crash, sending up a spray of sparks and debris. Priya stumbled back. Her camera slipped from her fingers. The others scattered. Their faces were pale with shock. The hook had missed her by inches. Its weight was embedded deep into the asphalt. The street was silent. The only sound was the ragged breathing of the 8 of us. Priya stared at the hook. Her chest was rising and falling rapidly. She looked at me. Her eyes were filled with a mix of fear and gratitude. I knew that. I knew then that she believed me. She knew. But the relief was short-lived. As we stood there, catching our breaths, a billboard loomed above us. Its advertisement for a new car was peeling at the edges. The wind howled, and the billboard started groaning. Its metal frame was creaking under the strain. I looked up. My heart was pounding. The vision struck again. The massive billboard tore free from the moorings. Its frame came crashing down on the street below. It struck Priya with a sickening thud. Her body disappeared beneath the weight of the metal and the paper. I lunged forward. My voice was a raw scream in my throat. But it was too late. The billboard groaned one final time. Then it tore free. It plummeted. A dark shadow swallowed the sunlight. Priya looked up. Her eyes were wide with realization. She didn't have time to move. The billboard struck her with a sound that echoed through the street like a gunshot. The others screamed. Their voices were a chorus of horror. I fell to my knees. My hands were covering my mouth. My eyes were burning with shed tears. Priya was gone. The street was silent. The others stood frozen. Their faces were pale with shock. The billboard was laying twisted on the pavement. Its once bright advertisement was now stained with blood. Priya's camera was nearby. Its lens were cracked. Its body was crushed. The death had claimed its first victim, and we all knew it would not be the last. This, my friend, is the end of episode 3. The Unseen Hand. Episode 4. The Warning. The hospital waiting room is a sterile purgatory. The fluorescent lights hum like a swarm of insects, casting a sickly glow over the linoleum floors. The air smells of antiseptic and grief. I sit in a plastic chair with my hands clenched in my lap, my nails digging crescents into my palms. The others are scattered around me. Marcus, Jake, Sophie, Ryan, Mia, and Danielle. The retired couple sits in the corner, their hands clasped so tightly that their knuckles have turned white. Priya's body was taken hours ago. The police asked us questions we couldn't answer. How did the billboard fall? Why was she standing there? We said nothing. What could we say? That death was hunting us. That we had cheated it once, and now it was collecting its due. The doctors let us stay, but only because we refused to live. We are not family. We are not even friends. But we are all that's left of each other. I close my eyes, but all I see is Priya's face. The way her eyes widened in that final second. The way the billboard swallowed her whole. My stomach twists after that thought. I should have done more. I should have screamed. I should have pulled her out of the way. But I was too late. Again. The vision had been so clear. The crane, the billboard, the end, and yet I had failed. I opened my eyes and I looked at the others. Marcus stares blankly at the wall, with his face ashen. Jake paces around the room. His boots are squeaking against the floor. Sophie sits with her arms wrapped around herself, but her gaze is fixed on the floor. Ryan taps his fingers against his knee, a nervous rhythm that betrays his calm exterior. Mia holds Daniel on her lap. Her chin is resting on top of his head, but her eyes are red-rimmed. The retired couple murmurs to each other, and their voices are too low to hear. We are all thinking the same thing. Who is next? The hospital's intercom crackles to life. A staticky voice announcing a code blue. In room 312. My body tenses. Room 312. That's where they took Jake after he complained of chest pain. The others noticed the announcement too. Sophie's head snapped up. Ryan's fingers still. Mia's grip on Daniel tightens. I stand up, but my legs are unsteady. The others follow. Their movements are slow, as if they're afraid to draw attention to themselves. We move as a group, a funeral procession in reverse, towards room 312. The door is ajar through the crack. I see Jake lying on the bed. His face was pale and his breath was shallow. A team of doctors and nurses were surrounding him. Their movements were urgent. One of them presses a defibrillator to his chest. His body jerks as the machine delivers its shock. I should look away, but I can't. The vision hits me like a freight train. Jake is on the bed. His body is limp. The doctors are gone. The machines are silent. His face is frozen in an expression of peace, as if he's merely sleeping. But I know the truth. He's gone. I gasp. My hand flies to my mouth. The others turn to me, their eyes wide with fear. They don't need to ask. They know. The doctors work frantically. Their voices were a blur of medical jargon. The defibrillator charges again. Jake's body arches off the bed. His back was bowing as the electricity courses through him. For a moment, there's silence. Then a beep. The heart monitor flickers to life. Its green line was spiking with each beat of Jake's heart. But he's alive. For now. But the vision lingers. A dark stain on my mind. The death isn't done with him. Not yet. We are herded out of the room. The doctors Jake space to recover, we return to the waiting room. But the air is different now. Thicker, heavier. The others avoid my gaze. Their expressions were a mix of fear and resentment. They blame me. I can see it in their eyes. She knew. She always knows. I sink back into my chair with my body trembling. I need to understand. I need to see. I pull out my phone and open the notes app. My fingers fly over the screen as I type out everything I remember about the others. Every detail, every conversation, every clue. Marcus's peanut allergy, Priya's crushed camera, Jake's heart attack, the ferry, the diner, the subway, the billboard, and then it hit me. We all have something in common. We all cheated that before. Marcus survived a car crash that killed his best friend. Priya was the sole survivor of a fire that consumed her apartment building. Jake walked away from a workplace accident that left 3 of his co-workers dead. Sophie was pulled from a burning house as a child. Ryan was the only one to make it out of a boating accident that had drowned his entire family. Mia and Daniel were in a head-on collision that should have killed them both. The retired couple, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, were on a plane that crashed, leaving them the only survivors. We were all supposed to die, and now the death is correcting its mistake. The realization settles over me like the biggest shroud ever. This isn't random. This is personal. The death doesn't make mistakes. It doesn't forget. And it always collects. I look up at the others. My heart was pounding too much. They are all watching me. Their expressions were a mix of fear and dread. They know I've figured it out. They know what's coming. The intercom crackles again. A nurse's voice fills the room. Jake Thompson's family to room 312. The retired couple, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, stand. Their movements were slow. They shared a look. A silent conversation was passing between them. Then they started walking towards the room. watched them go. My stomach was twisting. Jake isn't their son, but they're the only ones here, the only ones left. The door to 312 swings open. The Thompsons step inside. The door closes behind them, and then the screaming starts. I'm on my feet before I realize I've moved. The others are already running towards the room. And their faces were pale with horror. I follow. My heart was hammering against my ribs. We burst into the room. The scene is chaos. Jake's on the floor. His body was twitching. His face was contorted in pain. The heart monitor beeps erratically. Its green line was a jagged mess. Mr. Thompson is slumped against the wall. His hand was clutching his chest. His face was ashen. Mrs. Thompson kneels beside Jake. Her hands were pressing against a wound on his side. Her white blouse was stained red. The doctors rushed in. Their voices were sharp and with urgency. They push us out. Their movements are practiced, efficient, but I can see it in their eyes. They are too late. Jake's body goes still. The heart monitor flatlines. Its beep is replaced by a long, unbroken screech. The doctors don't stop. They work frantically. Their hands were a blur of motion. But I know the truth. Jake is gone. The room became silent. The doctors stepped back with their grim faces. One of them shakes his head. His expression was sorrowful. Mrs. Thompson lets out a sob. Her hands were covering her mouth. Mr. Thompson slides down the wall. His body was shaken with silent tears. The others stand frozen. Their faces were a mask of shock and grief. Sophie's hands were trembling at her sides. Ryan's eyes were wide. His breath was coming in short, sharp gasps. Mia pulled Daniel against her. Her chin was resting on top of his head. Her eyes were burning with unshed tears. I look at Jake's body. My vision was blurring. This is my fault. I knew, and I didn't do enough. The doctors were leaving with their heavy footsteps. Thompsons remain. Their grief was a living thing, filling the room with its weight. I step forward. My legs were unsteady. I kneeled beside Jake's body. My hand was brushing his cold fingers. I closed my eyes. My throat was tied with unshed tears. Death had warned me, and I had failed to listen. This is the end of episode 4. The Unseen Hand. Episode 5. The Sacrifice. The church looms before us. Its stained glass windows were casting fractured rainbows across the pavement. The air smelled of incense and old wood, a scent that clings to the back of my throat. We stand at the foot of the steps, the 6 of us: Marcus, Sophie, Raya, Mia, Ryan, Mia, Daniel, and me, Lena. The Thompsons stayed behind at the hospital. Their grief was too heavy to carry any farther. I could see still the hollow look in their eyes, the way their hands trembled as they clutched each other in the hallway. We don't speak. We don't have to. The weight of what we've lost presses down on us. A silent, suffocating force. Sophie is the first to move. She climbs the steps. Her fingers were trailing along the stone railing. The rest of us follow. Our footsteps were echoing in the empty courtyard. The church doors were now open. A dark maw was inviting us inside. The sound of the organ drifts out, a mournful melody that sends a shiver down my spine. The interior of the church is cool and dim. The light was filtering through the stained glass in hues of blue and red. The pews are empty. The air was thick with the scent of candles and dust. Sophie walks ahead. Her steps were sure, as if she's been here before. She kneels in the front row, with her hands clasped in prayer. Her lips were moving silently. The rest of us sank back. Our uncertainty was rooting us to the spot. I watched Sophie with my heart pounding. She's always been quiet, but there's something different about her now. A resolve, a peace, as if she already knew, as if she already made her Marcus stands with his arms crossed, his jaw clenched, and his eyes darting around the church, as if he was expecting the death to step out from the shadows. Ryan shifts from foot to foot. His fingers were tapping against his thigh. His breath was shallow. Mia holds Daniel's hand. Her grip is tight. Her eyes wide as she takes in the tower ceilings and the flickering candles. Her other hand rests on her chest, as if she's trying to hold her heart in place. I turn my gaze back to Sophie. She's still kneeling, her head bowed, her shoulders shaking slightly. I take a step forward, then another, drawn by something I cannot explain. The others follow. Their footsteps were hesitant. The vision strikes as I reach the pew behind Sophie. The church dissolves around me, replaced by fire and chaos. The stained glass windows shatter, raining shards of colored glass onto the pews. The organ screams. Its pipes were bursting into flames. The congregation runs. Their screams were echoing through the smoke-filled air. And then I see her, Sophie, kneeling at the aisle. Her hands were clasped in a prayer as the world burns around her. A beam crashes down from the ceiling, striking her with a sickening thud. Her body crumples, and her blood was pooling on the stone floor. I gasp. My hand flies to my mouth. The vision fades, but the fear remains. A cold knot in my stomach. I look down at Sophie with my heart pounding. She is still kneeling down, her head still bowed, her lips still moving in silent prayer. I have to warn her. I have to stop this. But how? I drop to my knees beside Sophie. My hand was resting on her shoulder. She looks up with her eyes red-rimmed, her face streaked with tears. She doesn't say a word. She doesn't have to. I can see it in her eyes. She knows. She's always known. The other gather around us. Their face expressions were a mix of fear and confusion. Marcus's jaw tightens. Ryan's fingers dig into his palms. Mia pulls Daniel closer. Her eyes were darting between Sophie and me. Sophie takes a deep breath. Her gaze was lifting to the crucifix above the altar. She stands with her movements slow and deliberate. She walks to the center of the aisle. Her steps were echoing in the empty church. She turns to face us. Her hands were clasped in front of her. Her chin lifted. And then she smiles. It's a sad smile. A knowing smile, as if she's already made her peace with whatever comes next. The church doors slam shut with a sound like a gunshot. The others jump. Their eyes were wide with shock. The wind howls outside, rattling the stained glass windows in their frames. The candles flicker. Their flames were dancing like restless spirits. Sophie didn't flinch. She closes her eyes. Her lips were moving in a silent prayer. The rest of us stand frozen, with our breaths shallow and our hearts pounding. Then the first window shatters. A gust of wind howls through the broken glass, sending shards raining down onto the pews. The organ groans. Its pipes were letting out a discordant wail. The others scatter. Their faces were pale with terror. Marcus dives behind a pew. Ryan flattens himself against the wall. Mia pulls Daniel to the floor. Her body was shielding his. But Sophie doesn't move. She stands in the center of the aisle. Her eyes were still closed. Her hands were still clasped in prayer. The church started trembling. The beams groan. Their wood was creaking under the strain. The stained glass windows explode one by one. Their colorful shards were littering the floor like confetti. The air fills with smoke and dust. The scent of burning wood thick in my throat. I lunge forward. My hand was grabbing Sophie's arm. She opens her eyes. Her gaze was meeting mine. There is no fear in her expression, only acceptance. I shake my head. My grip was tightening. I cannot let this happen. I want, but it's too late. The ceiling groans. runs towards Sophie, a dark shadow against the smoke-filled air. I scream. My voice was raw with terror. I pull Sophie toward me. My body was shielding hers. The beam struck the ground where she stood. Its impact sent a shockwave through the church. The floor trembles. The walls groan. But Sophie is unarmed. For a moment, there's silence. The only sound is our ragged breathing, the crackle of the fire spreading through the pews. Sophie looks up at me, letting her eyes wide with surprise. She didn't expect to survive. None of us did. Then the church screams. The ceiling collapses. Its beams were crashing down like the wrath of God. The stained glass windows explode. Their shards were raining down like a deadly storm. The fire started spreading. Its flames were licking at the walls, the pews, the people. I pulled Sophie towards the door. My body was shielding hers. The others follow. Their faces were a mask of terror. We stumble over the debris. Our footsteps were slipping on the blood-slick floor. The doors are just ahead. Freedom, salvation. But the church isn't done with us yet. A beam crashes down in front of us, blocking our path. The fire roars. Its flames were a wall of heat and light. The smoke was thick, choking, and filling my lungs with every breath. I cough. My vision was blurring and my body trembling. Sophie stumbles. Her grip on my arm was loose. I turned to her. My heart was pounding. She's pale. Her lips were blue. Her eyes glassy. The smoke is too much for her. She's fading. I wrap my arm around her waist, pulling her close. The others are ahead. Their figures were blurred by the smoke. Marcus turns. His eyes were wide with realization. He reaches for us with his hand outstretched. But it's too late. The ceiling groans one final time. A beam crashes down. Its weight strikes Sophie in my arms. Her body goes limp in my arms. Her blood was warm against my skin. I scream. My voice was lost in the roar of the fire. A She's gone. The church collapses around us. Its walls were crumbling. Its roof was caving in. The fire spreaded. Its flames were consuming everything in its path. The others are gone. Their figures were lost in the smoke. I am alone. I kneel beside Sophie's body. My hand was brushing her cold cheek. The church burns around me. Its heat was searing my skin. Its smoke was choking my lungs. I closed my eyes. My throat was tied with grief that had taken another. And we are all next. This is the end of episode 5. The Unseen Hand. Episode 6. The Trap. The warehouse is a cavern of shadows and rust. The air smells of oil and decay. The scent is thick and metallic in my throat. We stand in a dim light, filtering through the broken windows. Marcus, Ryan, Mia, Daniel, and me. Sophie is gone. Jake is gone. Priya is gone. The Thompsons are gone. We are all that is left. Ryan paces the length of the warehouse. His footsteps were echoing against the concrete floor. His fingers were tapping against his thigh, a nervous rhythm that again was betraying his calm exterior. Marcus leans against a stack of crates, with his arms crossed and his jaw clenched. His eyes were darting around the warehouse, as if expecting for the death to materialize somewhere from the darkness. Mia was sitting on the floor, her back against the wall, her arms wrapped around Daniel. Her eyes were red-rimmed, and obviously her face would be pale. She hasn't spoken since the church. None of us have. I walk to the center of the warehouse, with my footsteps slow and deliberate. The others are watching me. Their expressions were a mix of fear and exhaustion. I can see it in their eyes. They are waiting for me to see something, to know something, to lead them out of this nightmare. But I don't know anything. Not anymore. The vision strikes without warning. replaced by fire and chaos. The crates do explode. Their contents were scattering like shrapnel. The walls were trembling. Their metal sheets were groaning as they peel away from the frame. And then I see him, Ryan, standing in the center of the warehouse, with his body rigid and his eyes wide with terror. A crate swings from the ceiling. Its weight was crushing him as it struck the ground. His body disappeared beneath the debris. His blood was pooling on the concrete floor. I gasped, with my hand flying to my mouth. The vision fades, but the fear remains. A cold knot in my stomach. I look at Ryan with my heart pounding. He is still pacing. His fingers still tapping against his thigh. His breath is still shallow. He doesn't know. He doesn't see. But I do. I look around the warehouses. My eyes were scanning the shadows. The crates are stacked haphazardly, their contents unknown. The walls are lined with rusted metal sheets. Their edges were jagged and sharp. The ceiling is a lattice of beams and pipes. Their surfaces were coated in dust and grime. And then I see it. A crate suspended from the ceiling. Its rope was frayed. Its weight precarious. It's directly above Ryan. It was swaying slightly in the breeze, filtering through the broken window. I lunge forward. My hand grabbed Ryan's arm. He turns to me. His eyes were wide with surprise. I don't say a word. I just point to the crate with my tightening grip. He follows my gaze. His expression was shifting from confusion to fear. The others noticed now. Marcus pushed off the crates, with his body tensed and his eyes locked on the suspending crates. Mia stands. Her grip on Daniel was tightening. Her eyes were darting between the Ryan and the ceiling. The crate groans up there. Its rope was creaking under the strain. The warehouse is silent. The only sound was our ragged breathing and the distant drip of water from a leaky pipe. warehouse moves forward with his outstretched hand, as if he can catch it. Mia pulls Daniel behind her, with her body shielding his. I stand frozen. My heart was pounding, and my eyes were full of terror. And then the rope snaps. The crate plummets. Its weight struck the ground with a deafening crash. Dust and debris filled the air. The impact sent a shockwave through the warehouse. The others scattered. Their faces became pale with a shock. But Ryan is unarmed. For a moment, there's silence. There is the only sound is our ragged breathing. The echo of the crate's impact. Ryan looks up at me. His eyes were wide with relief. He didn't expect to survive. None of us did. But the warehouse isn't done with us yet. The great impact has triggered something. The warehouse trembles. The walls groaning. Its ceiling was creaking. The crates shift. Their contents spilled onto the floor. The air filled with dust and debris, and the scent of rust and decay was thick in my throat. And then the explosions started. The crates were detonating one by one, with their contents a mix of fireworks and flammable materials. The warehouse was an inferno. Its walls were made of fire. Its ceiling was a rain of sparks. The heat was intense, searing my skin, choking my lungs. I look around. My vision was blurred and my body was trembling like it's the biggest winter. Marcus is on the floor, his body shielding me and Daniel's. Ryan is beside me. His hand was grabbing my arm. His grip was tight. We have to move. We have to run. But the fire is everywhere. We stumble through the warehouse. Our footsteps were slipping onto the debris-strewn floor. The fire roars. Its flames were licking at our heels. Its smoke was filling our lungs. The exit was just ahead, a dark rectangle pulls me close. His body was shielding mine. Marcus is beside us, his arm around Mia, and the other arm holding Daniel's. We are trapped. The warehouse groans, its walls trembling. Its ceiling creaking. The fire was spread. Its flames were consuming everything in its path. The exit was just ahead. Freedom, salvation. But the warehouse isn't done with us yet. A pipe bursts above us. Its contents started raining down like a deadly storm. The liquid is clear. Its scent was sharp. Its impact was burning my skin. Gasoline. The warehouse was a tinderbox, and we are standing in the middle of it. Ryan's eyes met mine. His expression was a mix of fear and resolve. He doesn't say a word. He doesn't have to. I can see it in his eyes. He's made a decision. His hand was on my back, with his grip firm. Marcus follows, with his hand around Mia, and his other hand holding Daniel. Ryan turns. His body was blocking the flames. His eyes were locked on the exit. And then he runs, not towards the exit, but towards the heart of the fire, toward the crates, the beams, the death. His body disappeared into the flames. His figure became a dark shadow against the bright light. The warehouse trembled. Its walls were still growing, and its ceiling was still creaking. The fire spread everywhere. Its flames were consuming everything on its path. And then the explosion came. A deafening boom echoed through the warehouse. Its impact sent a shockwave through the air. The walls trembled for the last time. The ceiling also groaned. The fire roared. Its flames were a wall of heat and light. And then silence. Marcus stands beside me with his arm around Mia and his other hand holding Daniel. Mia's face is streaked with tears, her eyes red-rimmed, and her grip on Daniel tight. Daniel's face is pale. His eyes were wide with shock. We don't speak. We don't have to. We all know the truth. That had taken another, and we were all next. This is the end of episode 6. The Unseen Hand. Episode 7. The Betrayal. The motel room is a prison of flickering neon and stale air. The sign outside buzzes like a dying insect. Its pink glow was bleeding through the curtains. I, Lena, sit on the edge of the bed. My fingers were digging into the rough blankets. My eyes were fixed on the peeling wallpaper. The others were scattered around the room. Marcus, Mia, and Daniel. Ryan is gone. Sophie is gone. Jake is gone. Priya is gone. The Thompsons are gone. We are all that is left. Mia sits in the corner, her knees pulled to her chest, her arms wrapped around Daniel's. Her eyes are hollow, her face is gaunt. She hasn't slept since the warehouse. None of us have. Marcus paces the length of the room. His footsteps sound heavy. His jaw is clenched. His eyes dart to the floor, then to the window, then back at me. He's waiting, watching. I can feel it, the tension in the air, thick and suffocating. Something is wrong. Something is coming. The vision then strikes me like a blade between my ribs. The motel room dissolves around me, replaced by darkness and the scent of blood. Mia stands over me, with her face twisted in a snarl, her hands wrapped around the pillow. She presses it down over my face. Her weight was crushing me into the mattress. I thrash. My nails were clawing at her arms. My lungs were burning for air. But she doesn't relent. The pillow smothers my screams. The vision blurs. My body goes limp. And then I see her, Mia, standing over my lifeless body, with her chest heaving, her eyes wild. She drops drops the pillow with her hands trembling. She turns to Daniel with her voice whispering, "It's done." The vision fades, but the fear remains. A cold, hard knot in my stomach. I look at Mia with my heart pounding. She's still sitting at the corner, her arms still wrapped around Daniel. Her eyes were fixed on the floor. She doesn't know. She doesn't see. But I do. I stand up and my legs are unsteady and my body is trembling. Marcus stops pacing. His eyes were looking onto mine. He tilts his head slightly. His expression is unreadable. I can see the question in his eyes. What did you see? But I don't answer. I can't. I walk to the window. My fingers were brushing the curtain. The neon sign says. The neon sign outside casts a pink glow over the parking lot. Its light was flickering like a dying heartbeat. The night is still, and the air is thick with the scent of rain. Then I see her, Mia, slipping out of the room. Her footsteps were silent and her movements swift. She carries something in her hands, a syringe. Its contents were glint in the dim light. My blood runs cold. I turn back to the room, my eyes locking onto Daniel. He's still curled in the corner, with his small eyes wide and his small body trembling. He doesn't know. He doesn't see, but I do. Mia's gonna kill me, and then she's gonna kill him. I look at Marcus with my pounding heart. He's still watching me. His face expression was a mix of concern and suspicion. I can see it in his eyes. He doesn't trust me. He doesn't believe me. But I don't have time to convince him. I cross the room in 3 strides, my hand grabbing Daniel's arm. He looks up at me. His eyes were wide with surprise. I pull him to his feet with my tight grip and my eyes locked on the door. Marcus steps forward. His hand was outstretched. "What are you?" His voice was a growl, low and dangerous. But I don't stop. I can't. I drag Daniel to the door. My hand was fumbling with the lock. The door swings open. step out into the parking lot. My eyes were scanning the shadows, and then I see her, Mia, standing beside a dumpster. She was watching me also, with the syringe clutched in her hand. She turns to me. Her eyes were wide with shock, her face pale in the neon glow. She doesn't move. She doesn't run. She just stands there. Her eyes were locked on mine. Her breath was coming in short, sharp gasps. I pulled Daniel behind me. My body was shielding his. My heart starts hammering against my ribs, and my breath was burning in my throat. I can see it in her eyes. The guilt, the fear, the resignation. She knows. She knows that I've seen. The syringe slips from her fingers, clattering down to the pavement. She takes a step back. Her hands were trembling, and her eyes were wide with terror. She doesn't say a word. She doesn't have to. I can see it in her. I can see it all in her face. The truth. She doesn't want to die. The motel room door swings open behind us. Marcus steps out. His eyes were darting between Mia and me. His face expression was a mask of confusion and rage. He takes the syringe on the pavement, looks at Mia's trembling hands and Daniel's white eyes. Then his jaw clenched and his fists were tightening at the sides. Mia takes another step back. Her eyes were locked on Marcus's. She doesn't run. She doesn't fight. She just stands there with her body shaking and her breath coming in ragged gasps. Marcus moves forward with his slow and deliberate footsteps. He steps beside the syringe. His eyes were locked on Mia's. He picks it. His fingers were examining the contents, and then his expression was getting darker. I pulled Daniel closer with a tight grip, and my eyes were locked on Marcus's. I could see it in his face. The betrayal, the anger, the pain. He looks at me with his eyes burning with a question. Why? But I don't have an answer. Not for him. Not for any of us. Mia turns and runs. Marcus lunges after her. His footsteps were pounding against the pavement. I watched them disappear in the shadows. My heart continued pounding, and my body continued trembling. Daniel's grip on my hand tightens. His fingers were getting colder, and his breath shallower. And then the scream echoes through the night. A single, raw, terrified sound. I pull Daniel towards the sound, making my footsteps quick. My heart was hammering. We round the corner of the motel. Our eyes were locking on the scene before us. Mia is on the ground. Her body was trembling. His eyes were wide with terror. Marcus stands over her. His hands were wrapped around her throat. His face twisted in rage. His grip is tight. His knuckles white, and his body is shaking with the effort. Mia's hands claw at his arms, her face turning red, and her eyes bulging. She doesn't fight. She doesn't struggle. She just looks at me with her bleeding gaze, and her lips moving silently. Help me. I don't move. I can't. This isn't how it was supposed to happen. This isn't how she was supposed to die. But death doesn't care about supposed to. It doesn't care about fair. It only cares about the end. Marcus's grip tightens. Mia's body goes limp, and her hands were falling to her sides. Her eyes were glazing over. He doesn't stop. He doesn't let go. His face is a mask of fury. His breath coming in ragged gasps. And then he sees me. His eyes lock onto mine. His expression shifting from rage to horror. He releases Mia. With his hands trembling and his body shaking, he takes a step back with a white ice. His breath is burning in his throat. Mia doesn't move. She doesn't breathe. Her body lies still on the pavement. Her eyes are pale. Her eyes are open and her face is pale. Daniel's grip on my hand tightens. His fingers are digging into my skin. I look down at him. My heart is pounding. My eyes are burning with tears. He doesn't understand. He doesn't need to. But I do. Marcus stumbles back. His hand was covering his mouth. His eyes were wide with shock. He looks at Mia, then at me, then body trembles, his breath coming in short, sharp gasps. The night is silent. The only sound is our ragged breathing and the distant hum of a neon sign. The air is thick with the scent of rain and blood. And then the siren starts, a distant wail growing louder, closer. The police, the ambulance, the end. Marcus looks at me. His eyes were burning with a mix of guilt and fear. He doesn't say a word. He doesn't have to. We all know the truth. That the death has taken another. And we were all next. This is the end of episode 7. The Unseen Hand. Episode 8. The Reckoning. The storm rages outside the motel. Its wind was howling like a wounded animal. Its rain was lashing against the windows like 1,000 tiny whips. The room is dark. The only light was coming from the flickering neon sign outside. Its red glow was bleeding through the thin curtains. The air smells of damp carpet and grief. Marcus's body is still on the floor, his eyes closed and his face pale. Mia kneels beside him. Her hand was resting on his chest and her fingers trembling. Daniel stands in the corner, his arms wrapped around himself, and his eyes were wide and wet. I sit on the edge of the bed. My hands were clenched in my lap, and my nails were digging crescents into my palms. The syringe lies on the floor. Its needle was glinting in the dim light, like a silent accusation. The betrayal sits heavy in the air, a thick, suffocating fog. Mia's eyes meet mine. Her expression was a mix of sorrow and defiance. She doesn't regret what she did. She had to do it. Or at least that's what she tells herself. I look away. My gaze was locking on the mirror on the window. The storm outside mirrors the storm inside me. The wind howls. The rain lashes. And the thunder rolls like the growl of a beast. I can feel it. The weight of what's coming. The inevitability of it. Then a vision strikes me like a lightning bolt, searing my mind with its intensity. The motel room dissolves around me, replaced by a storm lashed the bridge. The rain falls in sheets, the wind howling like a chorus of the damned. Mia stands at the center of the bridge, with her back to me, her hands gripping the railing. Daniel is beside her. His small body was trembling. His eyes were wide with fear. And then I see him, Marcus, his body whole, his eyes alive, his hand outstretched toward Mia. But he's not the Marcus as I know him. It's Marcus as he was before the ferry, before the diner, before the syringe. His face is a mask of anger. His eyes were burning. His eyes were burning with a fury that chills me to the bone. And then he pushes her. Mia's body tips over the railing, her hands scrambling for purchase, her eyes wide with terror. She doesn't scream. She doesn't have time. Her body plummets, disappearing into the dark, in the churning water below. I gasp, my hand flight to my mouth. The vision fades, but the fear remains, a cold, heavy weight in my chest. I look at Mia. My heart was pounding. She is kneeling beside Marcus's body, her hands still resting on his chest, her eyes still burning with unshed tears. She doesn't know it. She doesn't see it. But I do. I try to stand up, but my legs are unsteady and my body is trembling. I look at the window. My eyes were locked on the storm outside. The bridge from my vision isn't far. I can see it from here. A silhouette, a dark line against the lightning-streaked sky. Mia stands up with her slow and deliberate movements. She wipes her eyes with the back of her hand. Her grip on Daniel was tightening. She doesn't look at me. She doesn't look at Marcus. She just walks to the door with her heavy steps and her shoulders squared. I follow. My heart was pounding and my eyes were wide with dread. The others don't move. They don't speak. She doesn't flinch. She doesn't hesitate. She just steps outside with her grip on Daniel. I follow. My footsteps were slipping on the wet pavement because my body was trembling. The storm rages around us. The wind was tearing at our clothes, and the rain was soaking us to the bone. The bridge looms ahead. Its dark silhouette was a promise of doom. We reach the bridge. Its metal railing was cold and slick beneath my hands. The water below is a churning black abyss. Its surface is broken by the rain. Mia walks to the center. Her steps were sure, and her grip on Daniel tight. She doesn't look back. She doesn't need to. I follow, my heart pounding and my eyes locked at her back. The wind howls, the rain lashes, and the thunder rolls like the laughter of a god. I can feel it, the weight of the vision, the inevitability of it. Mia stops at the center of the bridge. Her hands were gripping the railing. Her eyes were locked on the water below. Daniel was standing beside her, with his small body trembling. His eyes were wide with fear. She doesn't look at him. She doesn't speak. She just waits. And then I see Marcus. He stands at the other end of the bridge, with his body whole, his eyes alive, and his hand was gripping a rusted pipe. His face was a mask of fury. His eyes were burning with hatred that chills me to the bone. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. I can see it in his eyes. The betrayal, the rage, the vengeance. He raises the pipe with his grip tight, and his eyes were locked on Mia. And then he charges. Mia turns. Her eyes were white with shock, and her grip on Daniel was tightening. She doesn't have time to react. She doesn't have time to run. Marcus swings the pipe. Its rusted surface was glinting in the lightning-streaked sky. It struck Mia with a sickening thud. Her body crumpled to the ground. Daniel screamed. His voice was lost in the howl of the wind. His hands were flying to his mouth. I lunged forward. My hand grabbed Marcus's arm. pipe again. Its rusted surface was aimed at my head. I ducked. My body started trembling and my heart pounding. The pipe grazes my shoulder. Its impact sent a jolt of pain through my body. Mia groans. Her hand flight to her head, and her eyes were wide with pain. She looks up at Marcus. Her face expression was a mix of shock and sorrow. She doesn't speak. She doesn't need to. She doesn't beg. She just watches him with her eyes burning with unshed tears. And then she smiles. It's a sad smile, a resigned smile, as if she's already made her peace with whatever comes next. Marcus raises the pipe again. His grip tighter this time. His eyes locked on Mia. Daniel kneels beside her. His small body was trembling. His hands were clutching his arm. He doesn't speak. He doesn't beg. He just watches. His eyes were wide with terror. I lunge forward, my body slamming onto Marcus's. My grip on his arm was tightening. What? He stumbles back. His eyes were wide with shock, and his grip on the pipe was loose. It clatters to the ground. Its rusted surface was glinting in the dim light. Mia stands up with her slow and deliberate movements. She wipes her eyes with the back of her hand and took Daniel into his arms. She doesn't look at Marcus. She doesn't look at me. She just walks to the railing with her steps heavy and the shoulders squared. And then she jumps. Her body tips over the railing, her hands scrambling for purchase, and her eyes wide with terror. She doesn't scream. She doesn't have to. She doesn't have time. Her body plummets, disappearing into the dark, churning water below. Daniel screams. His voice was raw with grief. His hands were flying to his mouth. Marcus stumbles back. His eyes were wide with shock. His breath coming in short and sharp gasps. He looks at me with his expression a mix of horror and realization. He sees me now. He understands. And then he's gone. The bridge is silent. The only sound is the howl of the wind, the lash of the rain, and the roar of the water below. Daniel kneels at the railing with his small body trembling. eyes wide with grief. I stand beside him. My hand was resting on his shoulder, and my heart pounding, my eyes burning with unshed tears. Mia is gone. Marcus is gone. The others are gone. We are all that's left. I looked down at the water. My vision was blur. My body was trembling. The storm rages around us. The wind was tearing at our clothes. The rain was soaking us to the bone. But the storm inside me is worse. The grief, the guilt, the inevitability. That had taken another, and we were all next. This is the end of episode 8. The Unseen Hand, episode 9. The Choice. The storm has passed, but the world feels no less broken. The bridge is empty now. The water below was still churning from the rain, with its dark, endless void as a surface. Daniel stands by me. His small hand was clutching mine so tightly that his fingers tremble. His face is pale, his eyes red-rimmed from crying. He doesn't speak. He doesn't have to. The weight of what we've lost hangs between us, like a silent, suffocating force. I look at him, with my heart aching. He's just a child. He shouldn't have to bear this. None of us should. But here we are. The motel is behind us. Its neon sign was flickering weakly in the distance. The road ahead is empty, stretching into the horizon like a forgotten promise. The air smells of wet earth and exhaustion. My body feels heavy, as if the grief of the past few days has seeped into my bones. The vision strikes me as we walk. Its suddenness was stealing my breath. The road dissolves beneath my feet, replaced by a cliffside. Its edge was crumbling into the abyss below. The wind howls. It was tearing at my clothes, my hair, my skin. Daniel stands beside me. His eyes were wide with terror, and his grip on my hand was crushing. And then I see myself, my own body, stepping forward, with my foot hovering over the edge. The drop is endless. The rocks below are jagged and unforgiving, but there's no fear in my face, only resolution. And then I step off. I gasp. My stomach. I look at Daniel. My heart was pounding. He's still beside me, and his grip on my hand was unrelenting. He doesn't know. He doesn't see, but I do. We walk in silence, our footsteps being slow, our bodies being heavy with exhaustion. The road stretches endlessly before us. A ribbon of asphalt was cutting through the wilderness. The trees loom on either side. Their branches were swaying in the aftermath of the storm. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and pine. Daniel stumbles. His small body was swaying. I caught him. My arm wrapped around his shoulders, pulling him close. He looks up at me with his eyes wide and his pale face. He doesn't speak. He doesn't have to. I can see the fear in his eyes, the knowing. He's seen the visions too. I swallow hard. My throat is so tight. I should have known. We are all connected now, bound by something darker than survival. Of course, he would see too. The cliffside appears suddenly, as if the road itself has led us here. The drop is sheer. The rocks below were a jagged maze of gray and black. The wind picks up, howling through the trees, tearing at our clothes. Daniel's grip on my hand tightens, while his body is still trembling. I look at the edge, with my stomach twisting. The vision started replaying in my mind, my foot hovering over the abyss. My face was a mask of resolution. I can feel it, the pull of the void, the inevitability of it. Daniel looks at me with his eyes wide and his breath shallow. He doesn't speak. He doesn't beg. He just watches me. His grip on my hand was unrelenting. I kneel beside him. My other hand was brushing his cheek. His skin is cold. His eyes were burning with unshed tears. I can see it in his gaze. The fear, the acceptance, the understanding. He knows what I have to do. I stand up. My legs were unsteady. My body was trembling. The wind was howling and the trees groaning. And then the sky darkened, as if the world itself is holding its breath. I look at the edge with my heart pounding and my eyes burning. Daniel's grip on my hand tightens. He He doesn't want me to go. He doesn't want to be alone. But I have to. I take a step forward with my foot hovering over the edge. The drop was endless. The rocks below were a blur of grey and black. The wind tears at my clothes, my hair, my skin. I could feel it, the pull of void, the inevitability of it. Daniel's grip on my hand becomes a vice. His small body was trembling. He looks up at me with his eyes wide and his face streaked with tears. He doesn't speak. He doesn't beg. He just watches me. I kneel beside him again, with one hand brushing his cheek. I memorized his face, the curve of the jaw, the shape of his eyes, the way his hair falls across his forehead. I memorized the feel of his hand in mine, the warmth of his skin, the tremble of his fingers. And then I let go. I stepped back. My body was shaking and my heart pounding. Daniel's hand falls to the sides. His eyes were wide with shock, and his breath was hitching. He doesn't understand. He doesn't see, but I do. I turn, and my foot found itself hovering over the edge. The wind howls, the trees groan, and the sky darkens. I can feel it, the pull of the void, the inevitability of it. And then I step off. The air rushes me, cold and sharp. The ground disappears beneath my feet. The world is spinning around me. The rocks below rise to meet me. Their jagged lines are a promise of the end. But the end doesn't come. I opened my eyes. My body was trembling and my heart was pounding. I am on the ground, the rough earth beneath my palms, the scent of damp soil in my nose. The cliffside looms above me. Its edge was a dark line against the sky. Daniel kneels beside me, his small hand stand. His small body was trembling, and his grip on my hand was tight. We looked at the cliffside. Its edge was a stark reminder of what could have been. The winds howl, the trees groan, and the sky darkens. The world feels heavier now, the air thicker, and the inevitability pressing down on us. I look at Daniel, and my heart was aching. He's just a child. He shouldn't have to bear this. None of us should. But here we are. And we are not done yet. This is the end of episode 9. The Unseen Hand. Episode 10. The Cycle. The bus station is a cavern of flickering lights and stale air. The scent of diesel and old coffee clings to the back of my throat. Daniel and I sit on a bench. Our shoulders are pressed together, and our hands clasped tightly. The others are gone. Marcus, Mia, Sophie, Jake, Priya, and the Thompsons. All of them. It's just us now. The weight of the past few days presses down on me with a silent suffocating force. I look at Daniel. His small frame was trembling slightly. His eyes were wide and hollow. He's seen too much. We both have. But we are still here. Still alive. For now. The bus pulls into the station. Its brakes were hissing, and the engine was rumbling down. The doors swung open, and the passengers began to board. We don't move. Not yet. I watched them. My eyes were scanning their faces. They're all so unaware, so alive, so unmarked. I close my eyes, but all I see is the cliffside, the ferry, the diner, the church, the warehouse, all the deaths, the inevitability. Then a vision had struck me, just like a lightning bolt, searing my mind with its intensity. The bus dissolves around me, replaced by chaos. The road twists, the tires screech, and the world spins into darkness. The bus flips over then I see us, Daniel and me, our bodies thrown from our seats, our limbs flailing. Our voices were silent in a scream of twisting metal. The bus crashes into a guardrail. Its front end crumpled like paper. Fire erupted. Its flames were kicking at the wreckage. Its smoke was filling the air. And then I see him, Daniel. His small body was limp. His eyes were closed, and his face was pale. His hand was outstretched. His fingers were brushing mine, but he's not moving. He's not breathing. I gasp. My hands flight to my mouth. The vision fades, but the fear remains. A cold, heavy weight in my chest. I look at Daniel. My heart is pounding. He's still beside me. His grip on my hand was unrelenting. He doesn't know. He doesn't see. But I do. I tried to stand up. My legs were unsteady and my body trembling. The bus is still there. Its doors opened. Its passengers boarding. The driver, a man with a tired face and a cap pulled low, checks his watch. His expression impatient. He doesn't know. He doesn't see. But I do. I look at Daniel with my heart aching. He's just a child. He shouldn't have to die like this. Not at all. I pull him close. My arm was wrapping around his shoulders with a tight grip. He looks up at me. His eyes were wide and his face pale. He doesn't speak. He doesn't have to. I can see the fear in his eyes, the knowing. He's seen the vision too. The bus engine rumbles up, its doors beeping as they prepare to close. The driver calls out. His voice was muffled by the glass. His expression impatient. The passengers settled into their seats. Their faces were a mask of indifference. They don't know. They don't see. But I do. I take a step forward. My grip on Daniel was tightening. He resists. His small body was always does. And if we do board, we die in the crash. There's no escape, no cheating fate. But then I see, but then I see it, a flicker of movement in the bus's side mirror, a shadow, dark and formless. Its edges were blurred like smoke. It watches us. Its presence was a cold and heavy weight on my chest. Death is here, is waiting. I look at the bus. My heart was pounding as my eyes were full of dread. The passengers are all settled. Their faces were a mask of indifference. The driver checks his mirror. His expression was impatient. The doors beep one final time. Their sound was a countdown to the end. And then the bus pulls away. We don't move. We don't speak. We just watch as it disappears down the road. Its taillights were fading into the distance. The shadow in the mirror lingers. Its edges were blurred, and its presence was a cold, heavy weight on my chest. And then is gone. The bus station is silent. The only sound was her ragged breathing and the hum of the flickering lights. I choose. I look at Daniel. My heart was still aching. He's still beside me. His grip on my hand was unrelenting. His eyes were wide and his face pale. He doesn't see. He doesn't understand. But I do. We don't board the next bus or the one after that. We sit on a bench. Our shoulders are pressed together. Our hands are clasped tightly. The hours pass. The station was empty as the day wears on. The drivers come and go. Their faces were a blur of indifference. The passengers board and disembark. Their lives were a tapestry of unawareness. And then the final bus arrives. It's an old model with its paint chipped and its windows dirty. The driver, a woman with a kind face and a warm smile, steps out. Her eyes were scanning the station. She doesn't know. She doesn't see. But I do. The vision strikes again. It's the sadness that was stealing my breath. The bus is on the road. Its tires were humming against the asphalt. The passengers were quiet. then the world twists. A truck appears out of nowhere. Its headlights were blinding. Its horn was blaring. The bus swerves with the screeching tires and its metal frame groaning. The truck strikes the bus. Its impact sent the bus spinning into the guardrail. The fire erupts instantly. Its flames were licking at the wreckage, and its smoke was filling the air. And then I see us, Daniel and me, our bodies unarmed, our eyes wide with shock. We are not on the bus. We are on the side of the road, with our hands clasped tightly and our breath shallow. The bus burns behind us. Its flames were a stark reminder of what could have been. I gasp. My hand went straight to my mouth. The vision faded, but the realization remains. A cold, heavy weight in my chest. We are not supposed to be on that bus. I try to stand up, with my legs unsteady and my body trembling. Daniel looks up at me. His eyes were wide and his face was pale. He doesn't speak. He doesn't have to. I can see the fear in his eyes, the understanding. We don't board the bus. We watch it as it pulls away. Its taillights were fading into the distance. The driver doesn't look back. She doesn't see, but I do. The shadow lingers at the edge of the station, with its edges blurred, and its presence was a cold, heavy weight on my chest. It watches us. Its gaze was a promise of the end, but not today. The bus station is empty now. The only sound was the hum of the flickering lights and the distant rumble of a departing bus. I look at Daniel, with my heart aching. He's still beside me, with his grip on my hand unrelenting. His eyes are white. His face is pale. He doesn't understand. He doesn't see. But I do. Death doesn't forget, but it always collects. Not today. We leave the bus station. Our footsteps are slow. Our bodies heavy with exhaustion. The road stretches before us, a ribbon of asphalt cutting through the wilderness. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and pine. The sky darkens. twinkling like distant promises. Daniel looks up at me with his eyes wide and his face streaked with tears. He doesn't see, he doesn't speak, he doesn't have to. I can see the fear in his eyes, the knowing we are not safe. Not really. Death is still out there. It's still waiting. But for now, we are alive. And that's enough. The cycle isn't over. It's just only begun. And we will be ready. This is the end of episode 10. The Unseen Hand. Epilogue. The days blur together with a haze of exhaustion and fear. Daniel and I walk endlessly. Our footsteps were echoing on empty roads. Our hands were clasped so tightly that our fingers were aching. The world around us feels different now, sharper, darker, as if the very air is thick with the weight of what we've survived. The others are gone. The visions still come, but they are quieter now, as if the death is itself is watching, waiting, planning. We have found some small town at dusk, with its streets bathed in golden light of the setting sun. The air smelled of damp earth and distant rain. The people here don't know us. They don't see us. To them, we are just two more travelers passing through, with our faces unremarkable and our grief invisible. But I know the truth. Death doesn't forget. We rented a room above a quiet diner. Its walls were thin, and its floorboards were creaking with every step. The bed is lumpy, the blankets are scratchy, but it's a roof over our heads. Daniel curls up beside me. His small body was trembling, and his breath was shallow. He doesn't sleep. Neither do I. The night is long. The silence between us is heavy. I watch the ceiling. My mind was replaying the past few weeks. The ferry, the diner, the subway, the church, the warehouse, the bridge, all of the deaths, all of the visions, the inevitability of it all. Daniel's grip on my hand tightens. His fingers were cold. He doesn't speak. He doesn't have to. I can feel his fear, his knowing of everything. He's seen understands too. He understands. Morning comes. The sun was filtering through the thin curtains, casting long shadows across the floor. David is still asleep. His small frame was curled into a ball. His face was peaceful for the first time in days. I watch him. My heart aches. He's just a child. He shouldn't have to live like this. None of us should. But here we are. I stand up and my legs are unsteady. My body is heavy with exhaustion. I walk to the window. My eyes were scanning the street below. The town is waking up. Its people were moving like ghosts. Their lives were a tapestry of unawareness. They don't know. They don't see. But I do. The vision strikes as I watch. Its suddenness was stealing my breath. The diner below dissolves, replaced by chaos. The windows shatter, the walls tremble, and the roof collapses in a storm of debris. Fire erupts. Its flames were licking at the wreckage. Its smoke was filling the air. And then I see them, the people from the street. Their bodies limp, their eyes closed, their faces were pale. They're not moving, they're not breathing. And then I see us, Daniel and me. Our bodies were unarmed. Our eyes were wide with shock. We are not in the diner. We are on the sidewalk. Our hands were clasped tightly. Our breath was shallow. The diner burns behind us. Its flames were a stark reminder of what could have been. I gasp. My hand flies to my mouth. The vision fades, but the realization remains. A cold, heavy weight in my chest. We are not supposed to be there when it happens. I turn from the window. My heart was pounding, and my eyes were wide with dread. Daniel stirs. His eyes were fluttering open. His gaze was meeting mine. He doesn't speak. He doesn't have to. I can see the fear in his eyes, the understanding. We don't go downstairs for breakfast. We leave the room. Our footsteps were slow. Our bodies heavy with the weight of what we know. The diner is bustling now. Its patrons were laughing, and its waitresses were rushing. Its cook was shouting orders. They don't know. They don't see. But I do. We walk to the edge of town. The sky darkens. The first stars of the evening were twinkling like distant promises. Daniel looks up at me. His eyes were wide, and his face was streaked with tears. He doesn't speak. He doesn't have to. I can see the fear in his eyes, the knowing we are not safe. Not really. Death is still out there. It's still waiting. But for now, we are alive. And that's enough. The cycle isn't over. It's only just begun. And we will be ready. But for now, we walk. We survive. We wait. And somewhere in the shadows, the death is watching. Its unseen hands, its endless patience, and its inevitable reckoning. Thank you for everyone who was listening to this story.